Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud Native FM and Cloud Therapist YouTube show. And you're watching CodeToCulture Platform Engineering Unpacked for Enterprise. And we started a series back in October, and it's been 5 months. And the series is still going on, and we are very thankful for all of our guests to actually tune in to some of the very important topic of the time. It started with an internal developer hype. Is a hype or is it a freedom? We're talking about golden path versus developer freedom in episode 2. We talk about platform as a product in the third episode, and today we're actually talking about episode 5. That's about platform engineering, Gen AI, observability. That's kind of a subject. But thank you very much for tuning into the channel, and also I would like to thank you very much, Cortney, for still moving along with me on this series. Cortney, over to you. How has your years go by? And can I tell you still Happy New Year?
Yeah, of course. You can tell me Happy New Year always, because every day is a brand new start for some of us. Really, really excited to be here for the 5th episode. Thank you so much for welcoming me back and sticking it out with me also.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. And we have some wonderful guests lined up for us. And there's a newcomer on the YouTube Cloud Native FM and Cloud Therapist YouTube show. So I would like to call out Mihir Vora from the CDF Foundation Ambassador. So please, Mihir, tell us, give us a very warm welcome to both our channels. So over to you. Give us a quick intro for yourself.
Hey, thank you so much, Saim, for inviting me. I know I've been following Cloud Therapist and Cloud Native FM for a little bit. So really fascinating conversations, and I'm honored to be here today. And again, platform engineering and developer productivity are like kind of right in my wheelhouse. So I look forward to a great conversation with Ravi, you, and Cortney.
Oh, thank you very much, Mihir, once again for joining the channel. And Ravi been into my YouTube channel, and Richard is Cloud Therapist for a long time as well. And thank you very much, Ravi, for always welcoming us. Be a very welcoming guest for us, and even in the very crucial time you spend time with us on the YouTube channel. So Ravi, over to you. Give us a very quick intro of yourself in 2026 and tell us a little bit about Harness as well.
Yeah, I'm Ravi. Really excited to be here with everybody. Always an honor to be among such great guests and hosts. I'm Ravi, as Sam was saying. I currently in my role at Harness, I sit in a very interesting intersection. I sit between product, customers, and ecosystem, and that's Saim. I get to lead a team of great engineers here at Harness. And in my background, I was a longtime software engineer. I was forced into platform engineering, and I didn't think I was very good at it. And then I realized there was a lot of friction. So like my sole purpose is to reduce engineering friction and toil. That's been my life purpose as of the last couple of years. Really enjoy doing it. And yeah, we're doing a lot of great stuff here at Harness. And so really excited to be talking with the group today.
Oh, wonderful. Really always nice to meet you, and learning from you as well, because I think it's been the channel is centered around customer community interaction and being vendors have been building some solution as well. And luckily for some wonderful people on the internet out there, we're able to catch new people, catch new friends, and ask very tough or sometimes very silly question on the platform engineering side of things as well. So I will ask first, Ravi, the first question for you, Ravi.
Sure.
What were the biggest inflection point when it comes to platform engineering adoption?
I'll take this might be more of a kind of a gray or generic answer. Like there's always this debate, like what is platform engineering, what is DevOps? I won't even get into that, right? Long time DevOps practitioner here, right? Like it kind of starts with like an internal versus external customer type of ethos, right? So like I view like kind of a job as a platform engineer is an internal customer argument. If we make our internal customers, software engineers, engineering organizations successful, they in turn can delight our external customers. And that's kind of, I think in terms of like platform engineering maturity, the more, I can get a whole conversation about budget, ROI, can we even be a team, can we not be a team? I don't want to bore the listeners to death with that. Maybe just coming to the realization that your internal customers are important. If they're important, they'll delight your external customers. And that's kind of an inflection point that I think most firms I work with kind of get now.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think we keep on hitting these kind of things from a lot of the different guests on this show, on the CodeToCulture over episode or 4 or 5 episode, keep hearing about this stuff. So turning it to you, Mihir, can you share how the platform engineering, from your experience, how the platform engineering team is structured today, or what are the platform engineering tools you are actually using most these days?
Great question. I think I'll take the first part of how the team is structured. Now, like I've worked with like a lot of people outside in the industry, and I've had like conversations with them in terms of how platform engineering generally is evolving. Right? We keep hearing about treat your platform not as a tool rollout ecosystem, but more as a product, and that kind of helps you shape the organization accordingly. So from that standpoint, generally what I've seen is we have like team that manages the golden path and the templates, and that's basically kind of central to the ecosystem. There's pros and cons of that, but primarily there's a central platform team, and then there are like contributing teams, which is basically trying to get their things and the platform evolved at the same time. And then there are the consumers of that. So the way I have kind of structured most of my conversations around organizational dynamics is platform team starts doing real product management. The onboarding funnels and the adoption friction are kind of addressed by the platform team, and then the teams that are adopting the platform are kind of structured to both give feedback but also contribute to the platform. So have that kind of inner sourcing mindset while you set up the platform to start with.
I think the whole concept of looking at your platform as a product is something that everybody is still very much moving into and learning how to do. But when I'm talking to people, at least about this, when we build products, Ravi and you're at Harness, so like you're very much involved in the building of a product. People generally measure things, and when I'm talking to platform engineers, this is not always the case. So thinking a little bit around that whole developer experience and adoption, how do customer teams actually measure success with their current platform setup?
Is that a question to me or is that to me?
Yeah.
Oh, to me? Okay, yeah. So
because I think you have a very good vantage point, considering you are part of building a product, right?
Yeah, we have a lot. We have
measure on that side.
Huge platform here at Harness. I mean, it's very, very robust. I could kind of take a higher level approach there. Like ROI is it's software you cannot eat, right? You cannot taste it. It is something intangible. When I was at IBM, I tried to make who has the best tasting web server. My manager thought I was crazy when I did that, right? Because like, oh, you can't eat it, right? Years later, I learned that you cannot eat software, so it's something that's intangible. I had the opportunity to go 0 to 1 a couple times. So like from just idea to proving it to 1 to 10 to now I'm in the scaling mode, right? So we're going 10 to 100, some stuff I'm working on. There's a couple of like blanket ways to measure ROI. Like, is it financial? Is it the dollar cents? Do people pay you to use your platform? Other way as well, if that's not the way. For example, maybe Mihir, being a platform engineering leader at a large financial services firm, they might measure it in terms of productivity gains, right? Are people more productive? And those are kind of hard, right? The two big metrics of that are like space and DORA. Space is from Microsoft, DORA is from the consortium, right? Type of metrics that are out there. I'll wrap this up in 30 seconds to give Mihir a chance to kind of talk. But that's kind of it. Like how it's also difficult to prove that to folks who are maybe not. It's an experience thing also. Like, hey, I can say like, what, this makes someone 20% more productive. So what do they do at that time, right? It's always a second and third order. As a platform engineering leader, you're always thinking in second and third order kind of equations, right? Like, okay, this person say 20%. What do they do? How does it benefit the business? And so that's kind of the challenge of it there. Like measuring impact. I'm sure Mihir can talk about more specific metrics in his platforms. It might be activation, engagement. Are people coming back to your platform? And there might be soft measures, hard measures, but I gave you a bunch of like philosophical answers there, but it all depends on whoever's listening, whoever's paying the budget, how they want to see ROI is how you want to kind of align yourself to how ROI is in the first place.
I agree. I mean, it's after a point in time, it's fuzzy math, but I think how someone feels is not tangibly measured. So what I've sensed is like, you can put like DORA metrics as a kind of indicator of how systems are being built, how developers are kind of doing things. But from a platform standpoint, the success lies when you reduce the toil and the cognitive burden on the team. It's not very measurable because, like, for me, something might be complex, but for you, it might be easy. But in general, if, for example, if I have to tell you, like, hey, go deploy a serverless function, you're going to think, like, oh, yeah, I know that's easy. I'll just go write this simple Boto script or whatever to get that done in AWS. Now, if I translate that to myself, I'm like, hey, I need to go figure out who do I need to go talk to in order for me to get accesses and all the 50 things that I need to do, the granular configs, like all of that is burden on the developer. And it's very hard to measure it, but to me, that's one of the key aspects of, are your developers not bothered by that cognitive load, that they have to manage things by themselves rather than the platform doing the heavy lifting for them.
Yes, absolutely. And continue on this conversation for once again going to Mihir. So Mihir, when you look back, and this question we keep asking on the different episode of the on the Code2Culture. So what were the main challenges in transitioning from DevOps to the platform engineering model?
It's more. I don't think the hardest part is technical. Like everyone understands the value of it. Everyone understands the benefits of like what DevOps provides and what platform engineering is. I think it's more cultural. From the standpoint of the developer, when and like the developer operations intersection as DevOps, the developer was kind of in the scope of control of everything that they were doing. They were doing the application development. They were figuring out the deployment strategy. They were doing maybe writing their own pipelines. Everything was in their control. I think it's hard for someone to let go of that control to saying like, hey, I don't care about it, and let the platform product kind of handle that for me. So it's more cultural in nature, and it's more of a mindset shift, I would say. Early days like DevOps, it meant, yeah, you pick your own tools, you go do whatever you need to do, but you ship faster. With the platform mindset, it is more like, hey, I'm losing my freedom, but I'm gaining velocity. And I think that's kind of the transition or the shift, which is like a hurdle at times. But more and more organizations now are realizing that the platform approach is the right way to go. And I think that's where the whole evolution of platform engineering is happening.
That's super interesting take, and one we haven't actually heard expressed quite so clearly in our 5 episodes so far. I do have a question, because thinking about the fact that it is a cultural shift, and you're very clear, Mihir, as well, about it. Not everything is so easy to measure, and I really loved what Ravi said with you measure according to who wants to see the measurement. That is such an insightful thing to say, because the truth is there are totally different viewpoints and interests in the whole platform engineering space. It makes it difficult. Would you say that it might be easier to actually apply the whole concept of KPIs and have specific focus areas and goals that you're shooting for? And if so, what do you think some of those KPIs and priorities should be as teams move forward? This is for both of you. Ravi.
Okay. I'll let Mihir go first. He's a smart guy. I like listening to him. So yeah. I have a strong opinion, but Mihir, please,
I think defining the KPIs is where the crux lies. A lot of times I've seen teams define KPIs that are very loosely bounded, and that kind of makes it very hard for them to kind of show progress. Yes, you're measuring something, but if it is so loosely bound, like, hey, I want to get this system adopted across all my developer ecosystem, it's very loose. How are you tangibly measuring that in terms of, hey, are we adjusting to the feedback? Like, yeah, you put a declaration out, it's an objective. Then you have a key result saying, yeah, you do so and so adoption. But the KPI to me is like, how can you show that the journey is going well? And it's very hard because I've seen people fail at determining KPIs. Our failure rate has to be X. Our like pipeline runtime has to be Y. Yes, it is fine, but how are you kind of getting that? That's more like a key result than a KPI to me, right?
Kind of.
But I mean, I don't know if platform engineering should change any of the basic principles of defining KPIs. They should still be the same principles. I think it just becomes more easier to track them because now the platform's kind of operating with that mindset, with that shift in kind of ownership, and then they start tracking those KPIs.
Kind of like extending what it's beautiful to hear, like what he's saying. I take the opposite camp. Depending if my manager is listening to this or not, I don't have any KPIs or OKRs. I stray away from that, right? Like I on purpose do not have those type of goals because what I'm working on is like years long transformation, right? How do we measure in a quarter or even a week? We have a North Star goal on the team. It's like more is better. And that's pretty much it, right? Like anything that gets you to more of what we're trying to do is a better goal. More adoption, more engagement, more activation, more savings, right? And so like it's extremely hard. Where like it comes to the organizational trust, like if you get a lot of OKRs and KPIs, you're not trusted, right? Like especially for something that's so new. Now this will get into AI. AI is so new, right? So I've been fortunate to see 0 to 1 multiple times. I've been building distributed systems before Kubernetes. I'll be building distributed systems after Kubernetes, right? So I've seen the whole shift. And Richard was here, he would laugh like, "Wait, I remember you 4 years ago." Yeah. I take a very SRE approach, right? Like it's like, hey, is it going good or is it going bad? Like SLO, SLI, SLA type of approach, right? Like are we meeting the contract of like what we promised to do? We promised to reduce toil, reduce friction. Are we doing it? And it kind of gives us unilateral ways to kind of act more innovative. Because what ends up happening, like in Mihir, like you're an experienced guy, right? Like if you over-index to a KPI or OKR, I can make a chart look good. I can make it look really good. I can fudge the data. Don't let my manager hear this, right? Like he's probably like, stop. Don't go in podcasts and say that. But like, I can optimize for a week. I can optimize for a couple of days. Your chart will look beautiful in Looker Photo, right? Like, trust me, I'll make it look good. But you want to make, if you're making an investment, and that's when we can get into like, hey, like when we switched into, if we talk about AI, as for the viewers, we have a set of questions that we got to see before. So I know it's coming in the podcast. It's to break the fourth wall right here. It gets very difficult to measure innovation if you're doing it for the first time with a KPI. But Mihir, I'd love to hear. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So I just keep it short on this one because I know we have a lot of ground to cover, right? So I think the way some of these things are evolving, they are going too fast. Like just the whole AI adoption, right? I don't think we've seen a transformation like this before, which is a good transformation, obviously. And when we put KPIs, and I know I was talking to a friend who works at a tech company. Their KPI was like their boss or their leadership wanted to understand, hey, how many lines of code was generated by AI, and like it's a very complicated metric in a way because how much good code was generated versus how much bad code was generated versus how many times the developer just didn't pay attention and said, oh yeah, accept, and then let it go, and then, oh, this is bad, this is not right, and then they go back and do that. Like you do it over and over again, it can dump like 20,000 lines of code in like an hour, and that's not a good metric or KPI to measure. And that's where, like, you have to be careful in terms of how you define your KPI. And I think you covered that part where, like, you can make things look good, however you want to see it, and but how are you going to ground it to the reality? And that's where, like, the indicator should be good, bad, ugly, and then either it is good, either it's bad, or like it's really bad. But then it should be your mechanism to say, hey, how am I moving it towards the right outcome, which is being good. If it is bad, how are you getting to good and better?
Yeah, I agree. I know LOC is a horrible metric. I mean,
we were joking about it, like, that's crazy. But anyways, go ahead, Cortney.
But also, I love that you mentioned this because this is something I help manage the Kyverno community, and the amount of PRs that have suddenly surfaced because of AI. And the question isn't how many PRs do you now have to keep your project active. The question is how many lines of that AI generated code have to be reviewed by how many humans? How many humans do you actually have reviewing that code to figure out how good it is or not? And does the good code get lost within all of this slop that's been sent to you? There's so many other layers to that I think a lot of times people who are in management thinking, can we cut the number of people because AI can generate all of this code, aren't actually aware of how that's going to affect their product at the end of the day, let alone their platform team. So I think that's a fantastic example of something that people want to measure and aren't always aware of what that measurement is actually telling them.
Yes, and I think one of the worry sign with the AI is that like if you have some KPIs and people start fixing those as well, because previously it took a lot of time to fixing things up. Today it's just people saying, "Oh yes, I have done this thing bad," and it's just a one prompt to the AI and start doing the stuff, and none of the other team members are aware of it as well. So I think these days, once again, the KPIs is the very hardest part as well because people start fixing it because at the end of the day this is a measurement criteria. Everybody look at it as a very concrete thing. It's a measurement thing for the team, the measurement thing for the individual, and measurement thing for the tool they actually have been operating on. So everybody at the end of the day want to fix things up. So if you think this up in a hurry, things going to be break down again. And if the things is been fixed by the AI and the AI has some bad characters in it, it will be a very, very drastic story to begin with as well. But I'm moving a conversation to a Gen AI version of it because Mihir and I did a wonderful episode on the Cloud Native FM on the Gen AI, how the remediation work in the era of Gen AI. So Mihir, once again, is the same question but a different angle here as well. Can you give a sense of Gen AI internally? And which areas from your experience working with the customers and also with the broader community are seeing the most experimentation or adoption within the organization?
I love this question. I think last year was mostly coding assistants and some agentic workflows. This year, I think we are just seeing it more refined and more reformed in a way. What I think would happen is, with so many agentic workflows, even they have a social network apparently as of few days back. So it's only going to get kind of more and more grounded in terms of how agentic workflows kind of play a role. One specific area that I'm very interested in to see how this evolution kind of helps with is knowledge discovery and agentic actions based on those knowledge discovery. So generally, like large enterprises, big companies have like massive documentation, massive kind of scope of things, how they're happening across the company, right? They have different runbooks, postmortems. They could have like different ways of documenting things. But Gen AI can help be that semantic layer on top of that um, to help kind of rationalize some of that data. So when the developer wants to go and say like, hey, um, how do I rotate certificates for my specific service? And they get a contextualized answer to that requirement rather than them trying to go look for documentation which is stale or someone wrote this like 5 years ago. I don't know if it is still valid or not. And some of that ranking and kind of managing the quality can be kind of abstracted through that semantic layer, which the Gen AI workflows can help. I feel like there's also obviously agentic AI where AI doesn't just do chat but takes action. So, and I think we talked a little bit about it in our last podcast discussion where does the accountability lie and how those agentic workflows are self-serving, automated, but how do you start putting guardrails and controls in place so that it doesn't take drastic actions, right? And there's going to be a whole field that could evolve and that will evolve probably, which will have access management, which will have security concerns that the AI agent, and to what extent do we allow the AI agents to take actions on your behalf, right? Should there be a human in the loop for certain actions, but not everything? Like, it's a very gray space right now because it's still evolving. And I feel like, it's going to be like really, really exciting times to see how all of that evolves.
Yes, and going back to the Ravi is like I've seen it the last year, end of the last year or the middle of the last year. We've seen there's a huge trend on the people is saying like observability should take action, and that I did episode with Mihir as well. And everybody's saying like if you're sending alerts to the Slack and nobody's paying attention to, you should remediate those stuff as well. So Ravi, according to your experience of working with the customer, where has Gen AI has been applied in your customers' projects?
The Gen AI is all the rage right now. This reminds me of like, and this is a 1 minute answer again, so I know you're like, oh, we have more questions. Rather than gives a long answer. It just reminds me of like Kubernetes in 2014. Like, remember, the first KubeCon was 2015, so CNCF has their Agent Con, and like they're coming out now, right? So it's like very reminiscent of like 11 years ago or 12 years ago now, like of how early technology. We're following a I would say a traditional like technology adoption curve, right? There's like early adopters. Like we're not in the laggards yet. We're not even in the mainstream yet. And it all comes down to like risk appetite, like how much I can go. I could go in a tangent, like what my team does, what I do, like how I came about a lot of this. But what I've seen in like in a customer base, I'll give you two that I'm more familiar with. So like the working with a large ticket exchange. They were very cautious, right? They were like, no AI, we're legally bound. There's like a mistransaction, depending on the state or country you're in. To another large hotel chain. They're both in greater DC area, so Mihir, you probably know who these people are, right? So like, they kind of shifted from it's like dipping your toes into something. I mean, I'll compress it 30 seconds. This reminds me of when I got my first car with like radar cruise control to like my Rivian now. So like years ago, I got like a Chrysler product that was like, it has like lane keeping and the cruise control, and I'm like, I don't really trust it that much. It might swerve into another car versus I use like autonomy. I used it this morning when I went to the gym. It drove me to the gym, and then traffic is bad, so I drove myself home this morning, right? But it all depends on your risk appetite. We're still proving it out that is it risky or not. And to Mihir's point, like humans should be in the loop, right? Like if you walk into an airplane and there's nobody, there's like a dog in the pilot seat, you're like, this, do you trust it? One thing you cannot automate is judgment, right? You cannot automate judgment. Now you can put guardrails, and this is where the second part of the question I was hoping to get to. I'll say it anyway. As humans, we know what good and bad is, right? Like go back to like AI ops, ML ops, or AI operations. Like something should take action if something's wrong. Well, the system doesn't know if something's wrong or not. It just knows data, right? And it can tell you if something's an outlier. A little bit of a hint, I was a product manager for the harness product that did that, right? And so we would do auto baseline detection and like alert you to like, like this looks odd, and you're like your Dynatrace or AppDynamics metrics or Prometheus metrics, right? And so you can't take the human out. The human has to design the SLI, SLO, or basically a computer will say or math will say, based on 6 years of data, the anomaly under the curve is when it reaches this. But we know, Mihir and I know, hey, if the transaction is 1500 milliseconds, it's crap, right? Like it never approached it, but the system don't flag it. So long-winded answer, it's an early maturity curve problem, and it just depends on your risk appetite, where they are.
I think that so many things that you said right there, but especially risk appetite is spot on, but also we think that we know right and wrong, but then there's always things where humans surprise you of what they think right and wrong is, and oftentimes just because they don't realize what might happen after the fact. So it's like, I know what's right now, but I don't really know what's going to come after this decision. And so kind of thinking in that aspect, Mihir, especially in your experience, what have been some of the early surprises that you've had as your teams have been integrating Gen AI? Because we all know that people want to integrate things the right way into their workflows, but then there's a lot of times there are surprises that come after that. So have you had any surprises along the way? And what?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with the pleasant surprise, right? Like the pleasant surprise has been like, the reduction in the blank page syndrome. So what that means is, hey, I have to do something, but I have no starting point. Sometimes I'm just blank. I have to write a policy document. I have to write a white paper. I have to write something, right? You can start brainstorming things with smallest of ideas, and then you can get to a point of like, 50, 60, 80% readiness by like in minutes, right? But it prompts you to think of things that you may generally not think of, right? So I don't think it's, that's been a pleasant surprise, to be honest. Like, using LLMs to just revive your thoughts and just like, put your thoughts in and see what comes back. Articulation obviously helps in terms of how you're presenting things. But the other surprise that I see from a developer standpoint is it could help reduce context switching. So you can be in that flow, and you can, like, if you have like MCP enabled agentic workflows, you can basically ask the AI interface to do things for you, pull data from 5 different systems that you don't have to go search in like different places, ask like 2 people, get into some sort of a conversational uh, shift where like, you have to go tap people on the shoulder and say like, hey, I want to do this, right? So that's another one. The less of a surprise, or well, surprise, but like, where it kind of starts hitting the nerve is guardrails. And having worked in like a financial regulated company, heavy governance is something that kind of surprises me, obviously, but not in a way that like it's bad. I think you need governance, and you need compliance, and you need kind of audit trail of how the systems are working. You need to have data loss prevention so that like, your proprietary data is not going out, the models are not kind of being retrained on it, things like that. And just like the quality of the input versus output, like some of these are like main kind of parameters that I feel like, like early successes, but also surprised in terms of how they would evolve or how they have evolved, especially working in a financial institution.
Thanks, Mihir. And I think one thing during the conversation we call out is like one thing you phrased brilliantly, like in every organization setting I happen to work with, we have outdated docs. There's a command that has to be updated. There's a procedure has been updated, but the docs have not been updated. So previously, people blame like we don't have enough time to concentrate on the documentation part of it. I think if the Gen AI has a very primarily use cases on the documentation, I would start with that one because that has a kind of it can be experimented and it can be have some different phases to implement into it, and it's a drastically need of the organization as well. As we sooner into the observability platform where we ask like observability meet action, we have to be in a updated documentation all the time. Otherwise, if things are remediated on a new environment with the old set of command, things has to be in a very drastic turns could it take as well. And also I go back to the Ravi as well, because when you go back into the conferences and also in the tech conference, often we see the challenge. There isn't a right people involved in the conversation. Like you missing product manager on the other call, you're missing the coding developer on the other call, and then the sales people turning up and telling people like, oh, this product is it fit for what I feel like Gen AI could be a good fit where it can instantly create some sort of demos environment for the salespeople so they can actually move the conversation further. So have you seen like other than the coding aspect of the organization, is there a product management or also the sales cycle where Gen AI can drastically influence the sales cycle or also the customer experience as well?
Yeah, I can start with that one. And so we're fully embracing AI here at the firm I work at, and it all depends. I'll give you a very easy example. And it goes back to context. I mean, here was touching on that, right? Like in the whole MCP argument, right? Like why that's there. I'll give you an example of my personal life and like how difficult this is in enterprise. So I'm on a weight loss journey. I'm lost a good amount of weight over the last year, and I use ChatGPT. I don't pay up for all these fancy tools. Every day I tell ChatGPT what I ate, or like as I'm exercising, so it keeps track. But the chat gets so slow that every month I have to start a new chat. Right. So like right now I'm in February calorie count. It's February now. This is who listens to the episode. And it loses all the context that I just gave it. I'm like, I ate my normal dinner every night. During GPT, I ate the same salmon I had, last night, tonight, and it will remember month to month, right? Now, go to the enterprise. Like, imagine how big that problem is, right? Like, the missing context. And this is where human judgment kind of comes back. Like, as a human, I remember. Now, there's things you can do, right? So I do use Gen AI in like some projects I work on, right? I use Copilot, to be my junior engineer. Like, hey, like I need to write another annotation into the Spring Boot thing. Like, how does I pass, environmental variables with Kubernetes and Spring, right? Like, it helps me out with this stuff like that. But it doesn't really remember our coding standards, right? Or my standards. Now, there are ways to do it. You can give like a prompt file, an LLM file. You can give all the context, but like regenerating all that context all the time is quite difficult. Now, rapid prototyping, yes, I'm a big fan of that. Our own product team uses like a rapid prototyping tool that's AI based, right? So as a previous product manager myself here, if we do a UX mock, it'll be me and a designer would do it now, or me doing something stupid in Figma or PowerPoint. Like, Ravi, you're drawing circles here, like go back to learn how to draw, right? I would get that from the designer sometimes. And then, but rapid prototyping does make sense, right? And then like operationalizing it, we need the human, like we have the intrinsic knowledge, the judgment, the failures in our models in our head to kind of take it forward. So sorry, I know you keep taking the question like, what do you really want, Sam and Courtney? But it helps prototype a lot quicker. And it gets me to get you. I'll get to Mihir. It's like what Mihir said is beautiful. It's a blank start type of problem. Like, it helps you get enough cognitive capacity to actually focus on more. It's like, we have to prototype this. Let me give it to a designer now. Like, make it look proper. Like, hey, let me give it to an engineer to further the prototype. Like, did I miss? I know I missed like 80% of like the thing will fail in like 2 minutes if it ran in production, right? So that's it. It helps give a shared language. But that's my take.
Yes, absolutely, Ravi. And as I go back to Mahit, the one question I will be asking these years quite extensively, like because there's a problem in the organization. There are people who knows the newer set of technologies, and then the people who knows the older set of technologies. It always been a very challenging task to find a person who knows the both domain perfectly well. Like, he knows the traditional tooling what the organization have been using over the years, and also the newer tooling in that community we've actually been talking a lot about. So is there, like, do you think like Gen AI or is it now, or when will be the Gen AI capabilities are strong enough to migrate the organization from the older set of technologies to the newer set of community driven efforts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's already happening. I was at Staff Plus last year, and I had the chance of reviewing a presentation where it was from Airbnb, I think. And this gentleman, Charles, he was talking about how they used Gen AI to transition from a legacy React, or I don't remember exactly what kind of JavaScript framework they were using, test, which was like 20,000 test cases, to a newer, more modern kind of solution from a tech standpoint. And the estimated effort when they first went to the teams and asked for it was 1 year worth of time. It was done in like 6 weeks. So it's already happening in terms of like, hey, I want to do a Spring Boot migration. I want Spring Boot 2 or like 1.8, whatever, and I want to go to 2.4. Yes, there's like a lot of backward compatibility concerns and all that. It's a major version shift. But people can do that. It might take a while. Besides that, I have been playing around with Cloud Code a little bit in the recent times, and it feels like you kind of plan things with the agent, and you give it instructions, and you course correct them, and they can actually do that work for you. So migrations in terms of moving from older version to the newer version, or moving from language A to language B. I think the coding part of the agents are smart enough that they can do it with some assistance. I won't say they can do it completely autonomously, but that can happen, and that is happening even now in limited capacity. It's not like, hey, just go do this 400 service migration from A to B. It's not that advanced, I believe, but with the right set of kind of focus areas that people would have, it can be possible in the future.
Oh yes, absolutely. And me and Courtney both love in the work in the community, and we know sometime things are going to be obsolete, like Ingress Nginx has been obsoleted, and some organization still have that reference to that code as well. And I think it would be very nice if the sum of the part can be automated via Gen AI capabilities, because having asked a human for do this, it's going to be a lot of problematic, not only for the human, also the amount of time would it takes to do all of the migration in itself as well. So Ravi, I have one question, and then I get back to Courtney as well, because she always have some wonderful questions in their head. So I will kick it back to you. It's the one question, Ravi, for you. I think right now on the platform vendor specific things, what I feel like previously when talking about, developers are the main heavy customer of the platform. Back in the days, every event streaming, every marketing campaign, we see the developer is a focus of the platform as well. Right now we see like developer are consuming the agentic tooling, like agents they have been using. So some people reference to us quite in this in the later part of the in the previous episode is that the platform customers are the agents, and the agent customers are the developers. So do you think is the analogy, is it true to make any product on that shift, like platform should have Gen AI capabilities, and because developer need those capabilities, so the platform should be enable those. So do you think this is a right way to structure your product, or to create a roadmap for the any platform in 2026?
I'll take you back to how we started the podcast. It's like an internal versus external customer argument. I'm an old man. I remember when people didn't like developers. I was a developer who used to get into arguments with the ops people all the time. I was like, why is this so difficult? I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I was like, why is there a 150-page Word document that my laptop can open to deploy this piece of software? Like I already know where it goes after that, right? I lived through that. Then I lived through developer first. I lived through the whole paths, like PCF, Bluemix, OpenShift. I was ever having OpenShift came out, right? Like Mesosphere, all that stuff, like when it kind of blew up. To a service catalog based approach, and the older I get, I kind of get why the decisions are there, right? Like from a leaning on Mihir like as a platform engineering leader in a space, right? It's all about choice, like I used to think as a young developer, infinite choice is what we need. How dare you tell me I can't do this? To now I'm like, well, that will fall over in 30 seconds. So I sound like the people I hate when I was coming out of university, right? As like we have to operationalize it. Going back to it, you mentioned that it's about giving choice. I 100% agree. It's giving choice within guardrails. And now that's cliche, or is that as basic as that sounds? It's kind of a job of a platform engineering team. Is like how I view it as a funnel. I would like my engineers to have almost infinite choice when they want to prototype something. If it's legitimately something good. We've been introducing new AI tools on my team, right? It's like I'm literally going through this right now, right? Like this is a today discussion I have, like later this afternoon, right? And so, as we're prototyping things, prototype it not even a sandbox. We're not under hard, like my team's not under harsh compliance, like Mihir, being a financial institution, so we can really push the envelope. But then let's look at the results together, right? Let's put our human judgment to say, what was this worthwhile? Did it produce what you expected it to produce? And can we maintain this? And what is the gap between maintenance and this? Taking that is like still a human in the loop. Now, what you're trying to do is like kind of still rub that. Like, hey, you know what? We have a mix of agentic stuff. We have a mix of context, protocols. We have a mix of, basically building the floor up. It comes back to judgment, right? Like how much of judgment can you automate? I'll leave it with this. I used to run the docs team at Harness, so I like writing docs, right? I'm number one Confluence producer. I have over 700 or 800 pages that I authored. No AI here, right? So I write all the time, right? I started a lot of policy, right? So like in a scaling organization, policy what makes the decision move forward. If you're not scaling, like we're not scaling, like we're still on reaching part of scale that my org or my particular like engineering team that we need to have a hard yes or no decision for a lot of stuff. We're still like we need to decide like together if it's even yes or no is the right decision. That is something you cannot automate away, right? Like you get all the data, you can look at it. It's like a doctor, like, hey, all signs point to this, but we think you'll react like this, right? And that is decades or centuries of medical experience in that doctor's head, right? And so that is kind of the same thing we're facing on. And so it's like, yes, you're able to make a better, more informed decision, but still like your experience counts. I know that was not quite where you wanted the question to go, but like, I'll leave it at, pay respect. Like Mihir, very important job he does. You guys respect the guy, so that's...
You're too kind.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the fact that you think and continue to propagate a human in the loop. I think everyone at this point is in agreement on that. But in the platform space specifically, as we all know, oftentimes humans are the biggest problem that we have to manage, are the humans in the loop. And kind of taking a look at how AI is growing and the usage of it is growing so quickly. I have a question. Maybe we'll start with you, Ravi, because you have worn the actual product leader hat previously. When you're looking at AI, do you think that this can now become something that at some point in the future will be leveraged to generate platform engineering products themselves?
I see all the memes.
So the human in the loop then manages the other humans in the loop.
I follow like several people on Instagram, like who's like detractors, like and what I die laughing. Like, oh, there's an AI product manager. We're taking like a direction from Clippy, like and it's like delete all the users. Like, no, like what is Clipart doing to us? Yeah, you can goes back to like how much. The whole point of a platform engineering tool, and Mihir will hopefully agree with me, is platform engineering tools are not infrastructure. It is outcome-based tools, right? It's not like, we're not like Kubernetes. That's a piece of infrastructure. It's not like AWS, GCP, Kafka. I learned to go miles of these tools, every one of them, right? Those are pieces of infrastructure. A platform engineering platform is an outcome-based tool. It is distilling decades of experience into automated decisions. It's like applying for a credit card. I was going to pull out my Capital One card, but I don't people see it, right? So like, a good example is the banking sector, right? For example, I know Cortney, you moved out of the US, but like, let's say you want to apply to an American Express card. By the time, like in 15 seconds, you could apply to an Amex card and have gotten a Amex Platinum card in your Apple Wallet, right? To like buy something right now after like maybe that Lululemon credit makes sense to you, so you want to shop some Lululemon right now after this call. It's not like the number of decisions that American Express, I know people who work there, they make about 3,500 decisions in 15 seconds if you're credit worthy for a platinum card or not, right? Like it's in the thousands if you're credit authorization. That is a platform engineering tool, right? Like you cannot tell Gen AI, make me a SaaS tool that replaces OpenShift. Make me a SaaS tool that replaces, because what it will build is a piece of infrastructure. It will not build the judgment in, right? The value in a platform as a service or any platform tool that, Mihir probably manages, it's not the infrastructure. Yeah, we know how to make it scale. Put a couple more nodes on there, make it a little faster respond, but that is not the value. The value is the judgment call that it makes, and you cannot automate that. I'm stalwart on that. Like, until the day, the last of it, I'll leave it. The going joke I always tell people, I've been telling this for 15 years, if you see the movie Terminator, Skynet is written in Java. If it was written today, it's written in Java, and the machines need to restart every 8 hours. So within the war starts, it only has 8 hours when the machines come back, and we'll have to be friends. So I'll leave it at that. Every AI thing I say, it's like you have to bounce the thing in 8 hours, so we got 8 hours to get ahead of us, and then recover for your machine. So that's it. You can't automate the judgment again.
Okay, do you agree?
I can't beat that. Ravi shared some really great insights there. I don't think it depends, right? Like, and I know it's a very cliched "it depends" answer. Depends on what problem you're trying to solve in the platform space and where the Gen AI can help. Obviously, it cannot replace the aspect that Ravi touched upon, but think of a platform engineer who's developing something. They can get the lift from the AI to help accelerate what they're building. but it's not something like, you just key in some instructions and something magically appears for you. I don't think that's where it would be, but yes, it will help platform engineers who build the platform accelerate towards getting the platform built up and set up. I think Ravi covered a lot of ground there in terms of platform has to make n number of decisions, from both servicing the customers to self-healing, self-managing, scaling and all that. It's two different paradigms. One from the user standpoint, the other from the platform engineering standpoint. Some tasks maybe Gen AI can do the lift or provide agentic solutions for, but I don't think we can say that the whole ecosystem can be just pure Gen AI. At least right now. Maybe one day AGI becomes a reality. Maybe Skynet becomes online, whatever.
I'll go offline in 8 hours. It'll be Java based. Just go offline.
They migrate from Java to some other language that has.
Don't tell it that. No one learned.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So it's been wonderful talking to all of you. So I love the conversation. I want to keep on for a while, but I think we have short amount of time to cover the ground here as well. So some closing on questions, starting with Ravi. Ravi, this is only the second month of the 2026. If I ask you to do any smaller innocent prediction, plus where are you focusing on the year ahead? What are some of the areas?
Let me pop that question into Chat GPT.
You
see me look at this? It's like, don't listen to Chat GPT. I didn't badmouth you. The $19 a month goes good. I think it's like any technology curve. People even my own self, the last 3 or 4 months, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with AI. I used to be I never want AI to know anything that I do to draw me a picture of my dog, now it knows my dog, right? And so that's it's a typical technology stuff. Even these things, your phones, right? How these things have changed. Used to be hey, the phone was in my car, I would get suspended in high school if I took it into the classroom from the car. Now it's I have 2 cell phones that are on me and a smartwatch, right? And so it's a typical technology adoption pattern. We live all as consumers. We live that every day, right? And there was a famous talk, the consumerization of enterprise IT, because we're so used to frictionless experiences in consumer land. Mihir's job is very difficult now because he has to build a consumer-like experience for his internal customers, or they go somewhere else, and that'll always continue to happen now, because innovation helps everybody. One of my when I first got into product, one of my SVPs, he's a very polite man. He's like, Ravi, a rising tide raises all ships. Someone else said that, but he said it to me all the time. If you do a little bit better for everybody will benefit from it, right? And so I think we're in that. I think it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing in my opinion.
Oh yes, absolutely. Going back to Mihir, I know you are working on some of the white paper as well and some of the other stuff on the CD Foundation. So if I ask you some of the key areas you have been focusing on, plus what do you predict what's going to be the rest of the year going to look like for you?
It feels like it was ages ago when I wrote that intent-based engineering blog last year. And just trying to kind of rationalize 1 year that has passed, right? Now, when I look back, it was a concept when I first wrote about it. Now I think it's really easy to build that. It's really easy for it to become a reality. And that's the shift that I'm seeing, where you imagine something today and maybe in few months you'll see that being a reality. That acceleration is not just just Gen AI coding tools or some of the agentic workflows doing its job, but I think it's also the nature of change that we are kind of embracing. Humans in general, and I think I've read a little bit about this, are very, very for change. But the evolution that we're seeing now is everyone who feels that and I've talked to some people who have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. They are senior leaders. They have not been close to coding for a long time now. They are able to roll up their sleeves and say, hey, I built this app without doing anything. by myself, like not even writing a single line of code. I'm able to build this app which I'm going to commercialize. It sounds very like imaginary, but that's the way things have evolved. And to me, it feels like where we are going, and where like what I feel could happen is developers today like kind of deal with like a lot of complexity, a lot of burden that would start easing and going away. We would get developers to have lesser decisions to make so that they can focus on the creative kind of problem solving. The stuff around platform engineering, right? Like, hey, the platform's doing the heavy lifting. I don't have to care about it. I'm just going to do my job. They are going to do theirs, and then everyone's happy, right? So that evolution is where I see a lot of emphasis now, where the developer comes and says like, hey, I want a service that that is like, whatever, like, it's a highly called service, and I need the database to be a GDPR compliant database engine, and the platform goes build it for them. It gives them like, a skeleton piece of code, and they just go write the logic that they need to write. They don't need to think of, oh, how do I provision this? What region should I go provision this? How do I kind of, should I create a container image that runs on like Kubernetes, or should I do Wasm? Like, all of these are like decisions that are heavier to manage. And I think to me, it feels like AI might help like, simplify some of those for the developer, where the developer can go and be more productive.
Absolutely, 100%. And going back to Courtney, because we speak a lot about policy in the in the agentic world. So, Courtney, you have to wrap this up because you're very good at concluding stuff.
Yes. Thanks. I think I do actually conclude most of our episodes. No, but I think I do talk a lot about policy, and at this point, this has been a fantastic conversation because we're constantly bouncing back and forth between policy as guardrails, policy for AI to build policies, right? There's so many different things going on, and they're just developing so quickly. I would say that because the word has been repeated numerous times by both of our guests today, guardrails, 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 and how important they are as we move forward. But what I would like to ask to wrap things up is from both of you, if you could give one simple, solid piece of advice for platform engineering teams that are starting to leverage AI as they move forward, what would that be?
Oh, Mihir, you first.
I can go first. I'm not trying to be cheesy, but this is how I think. A platform isn't successful when it is built. It is successful when it is chosen. So it basically should not be shoved down the throat of people saying like, hey, you have to use this. It has to be more like, hey, we built it. I think it works. Why don't you try it? And if they like it, they choose it. That's when I would say the platform is successful. And all things said and done, like, I think Gen AI is most valuable when it reduces context switching and helps developers be in flow, not when it pretends to be completely autonomous. So that's where the guardrails piece comes in. But those two pieces, like, combined together from a platform standpoint, is kind of very liberating for the developer to be in the time where the productivity improvements, the enhancements, and the experience kind of all come together for the developer. So that's my, like, maybe not one but a few sentences.
Cool. Mine's even more simple. Don't go to jail. I end all the podcasts when like people, like because I'll make it more related to the popular question now. Like, hey, as a human, you know what's right or wrong, right? Like, don't go to jail. You did a lot of wrong if you went to jail, right? When we turn this into a systems kind of question or kind of a paradox is embrace the change, right? Like, all these changes, like Mihir even said it, like, it gives you more capacity to make a judgment call. That's what it does. You're not succumb to the noise. It's why you use cruise control in your car, or I use autonomy. Just early in the morning, it drives itself to the gym and comes back. So you can focus on what makes innovation. Like, is there a problem? So you need to call it incident. Is there that extra cognitive load? Can you use it to make more innovation? Right. So take it as that. Take it as an enhancement to do better and not go to jail. So that's my advice.
Awesome, Ravi. Thank you very much. I think that's a best way to conclude the podcast here as well, because we are in the episode 5, and I think this is also the conclusion of the at least the 5 of the episode. One more is still remaining, but I really like the conversation because I think it's important to have the two aspect of it as well, because how the vendors are looking into it as well, and also how the enterprises are adopting to it this solution as well. And also glad to have Cortney alongside me all the time as well. This is episode 5. Thank you very much. We're still going on, even though this is a 5-month long series, Code to Culture. And I know Cortney is a very, very busy person. KaiVernocon is happening. I know to be really busy going forward as well. A bunch of stuff we also been running in the community side of things as well. But luckily, we're still going on, and one more episode to go. Courtney, we need you once more time as well, and we really enjoy the time with you as well. So now it's your final time to conclude things up, and then we wrap up the episode.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. The 5 months have ironically gone by very quickly because they've been filled with very interesting conversations and people along the way. And also, if I'm not mistaken, we will wrap up our 6th episode with Richard and then start a new series. So yeah, always have to be building and growing new things. So very much looking forward to new opportunities and things to do. It's great. This is, however, our last episode, Saim, together. So thank you so much for putting up with me. And my very random questions, and also typically my organization around my son's school schedule. So I was like, this day yes, but this day no. He has school, he has swimming, he has... So
oh man.
It's more complex than they start driving. Yeah, so.
I was going to say, I got my own platform automation that I'm trying to do with my family. And again, too many humans in the loop that are too opinionated.
You can have more nodes.
At some point, manager schedule now. Oh, sorry.
I need a replica set myself.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And enforce my policies a bit more strictly, I think.
Yeah, so you can create MCP. You can create MCP server for yourself as well.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, it has been a pleasure talking to all of you, and I look forward to what next is up the radar. And yeah, I mean, I would love to come back if there's anything that I could do for you guys. So.
Yes, absolutely. Mihir, you will be busy this year, that's for sure as well. And always thanks, Ravi. I know you have been busy person, and you've always been very, very easy to approachable for both of YouTube channel, Richard and Cloud Native FM. It's been so appreciated as well. Thank you very much, guys, everyone, for tuning in to the Cloud Native FM podcast. This is episode 5 of Code to Culture, and looking forward to meeting you again in the episode number 6 with Richard and Cortney. Bye-bye, everyone.